Okay, so welcome to part one of this is gonna be a long series, hopefully. Welcome to part one of Lifting for Dummies. This was a requested series, and I was gonna do something like this anyways because obviously I'm not gonna give you guys a call to action and then leave you without an action plan. Okay, what kind of teacher would I be if I did that? Okay, but this was so for anybody who is they want to start training, they want to go into the gym and basically know what they're doing and look like they know what they're doing for the first time. Like this is what you want to do, because I think it is key when you're getting to the gym. This is underrated, right? By people who are in my position, who have gotten to the point that we're at now, where we've been lifting for a long time. Like I've been lifting for about 3 or 4 years. I can't even 4 years without stopping. Okay, no breaks, no missed days, nothing. And it sounds hard to believe for people who haven't gotten into it yet, but like we genuinely don't feel the urge to take a day off. I don't rely on discipline to go to the gym whatsoever. I don't think I've ever had discipline since the day I started. I mean this sincerely. I have never, ever had to use discipline to get myself in the gym. Every single time I have a training schedule, session scheduled, I look forward to it. Like I'm not exaggerating, and I'm being completely truthful here. I've never had a session I didn't want to do, not one time. Okay, and I think that's mostly due to the fact that I really got it right off the bat. Like things made sense to me right off the bat. I didn't fall for the typical tricks and the shit. Like if I had to divide my lifting experience into two eras, which I will, there was, okay, if you count the ages of 13 to 18 where like you'll lift in your high school weight room for your sport here and there, and you might have even gotten a gym membership and gone a couple times, but every time you do it's some sort of like stupid arm workout or upper body thing that like basically I'm not counting that, but if you want to count that, then yeah, I've had plenty of times then where I didn't want to go to the gym. So this is kind of what I'm saying, is like if you fall for all the shit that I fell for when I was that age online, you're going to get discouraged quickly. You're not going to get results quickly, and then you're going to give up. And a lot of people tell you just got to be patient, right? And you've got to be patient, wait for the results. But look, like, yes, to a degree, that's true. But also to a degree, you should get results pretty quickly. I wouldn't consider myself a genetic outlier by any means, but I made gains pretty fast once I figured out what to do. And I think the newbie gains will come very quickly to most people, and they should be rewarding enough to sustain you through that beginner period where you get past that and you get to the intermediate stage. And then most of the time, by the time you're there, it's just a part of your habits, a part of your routine, and you don't even think about it anymore. Okay, so this is for people who want to get it right off the bat, okay? And it's actually not as complicated or as difficult as you think. You might think of yourself as somebody who like is not ready to follow a weightlifting program consistently right off the bat. But if that's true, all that means is you're following the wrong program. It doesn't mean that you're not. The problem isn't with you, right? No matter what level you're at. And there's a lot of things that hold people back. So I'm going to go into those things more in detail later. But a lot of things that hold people back are they're just like, for whatever reason, it can be so many different things. They're not good at producing effort yet, and they're not good at producing effort for a significantly like sustained. And I'm not talking about 2-hour workouts, right? Your workout should take an hour maximum usually, okay? But even that is a lot for most people to start off, because this is such a dramatic shift from what they do in day-to-day life. And if you think about it, most people focus on the kind of mental and emotional aspects of what goes into lifting weights and why it's so hard to go from a state of never lifting weights to all of a sudden you're lifting weights every day. It's not just a mental and spiritual shift, guys. This is a physical thing that you're putting your body through for the first time. That is a radically different experience for your physical body. So if you think that your body is just going to not give you any type of displeasurable feedback to that, right? That's delusional. Of course it will. So our job is to introduce you in a way where we can minimize those displeasurable feedback cycles as much as we can and maximize the positive feedback cycles. as much as we can, which means that we don't have that much room to do things wrong, okay? And when I say do things wrong, I mean following the wrong principles. That being said, okay, this is where you have to really understand two ideas can be true at the same time. You guys have to understand nuance here, okay? I know I just said that you don't have very much room to follow the wrong principles, but on the other hand, if you do follow the right principles, you have a lot of room to follow them to certain degrees, more or less, and still get results. Does that make sense? Like, it's like, there's only one direction to go in, but as long as you make any steps in that one direction, you're good. You're gonna be good. Okay? So, let's go into this, okay? The two variables that you're actually wondering about when you're first starting to lift weights, okay? Because you're wondering what to do, and then you're confused by all these like nefarious different online sources who will tell you like do this, do that, and they won't give you reasons that you can relate to. I'm going to give you reasons that you can actually understand and relate to right off the bat. These things are going to be intuitive, first principles to you. You're not going to need to have the experience to understand what I'm saying. Like, that's the catch-22 I see all the time online. Okay, so here's the two, I'm going to simplify this. These are the two variables that you, in your brain, are actually wondering about when you're thinking about what do I do when I get in the gym, what program do I follow, etc. You're wondering about which exercises you should perform. That should be obvious. And you are wondering how much weight you should use, okay? And then as a result of that, those two things, how do you know when you're done? Okay, AKA, how much of it do I do, right? Do I just keep going forever? How many reps should I do, sets, whatever. But all of those two things are dependent on the two variables that I just described, which is which exercises do you perform and then how much weight do you use on them, right? That's the thing that everyone is confused about. Everything after that is like, okay, form and stuff like that, you don't have to think about it that hard. You can, for the most part, just pretty much copy the exercises, like the form that I show you in the exercises. Like it'll look different for you because of your body structure, but the concepts are unbelievably simple. So you won't have to worry about those too much. Okay, so these questions are interrelated, as I said, and we're just gonna cut right through the shit and purify the essential elements, okay? Because it is much simpler than you think starting out. It'll get more complicated eventually as you get more advanced, but starting out, super simple. So we're gonna talk about exercise selection first, okay? So right now, I don't want you to worry about, like, I'm gonna get in your head again and just assume that you have seen online sources before trying to explain to you their own theories on why certain exercises work to build muscle, and it'll always have something to do with like magical biology that they don't understand. They'll use these vague biological terms or physiological terms. They don't actually know what they mean, okay? So don't worry about that shit right now. Don't worry about rules yet, because they're not going to mean anything to you, so you won't be able to follow them, right? Does that make sense? In order for the first principles of physiology and biology, which make up the rules of training, to actually be useful to you, they have to be attached to sensations, right? Because sensations are what you feel, okay? This is what I'm talking about. I'm gonna relate it to you, okay? So sensations are what we call afferent feedback mechanisms, meaning that they're your means of interpreting bodily effects and events, okay? So for example, if you touch something hot, you feel pain, you feel burn, right? That's your body telling you the interpretation of what it felt, right? Which is, hey, motherfucker, we just got burned. I'm gonna send that signal to you so you understand that, okay? So if you can know the names and functions of these events without knowing the sensations to which they attach themselves, you're gonna confuse yourself, right? Imagine if someone tried to explain to you what a burn was, but you never felt it. You'll always be confused. Does that make sense, guys? So lifting is one of those things where it's like the answers that you want, you can't, it's like in a way you can't have until you start. Okay, so cool. So this is why, what my job is to give you an idea of what these sensations are gonna feel like, relating them to other sensations you may have felt. Okay, that way you know what to expect when you go in there, you know how to achieve that sensation, and you'll know when you have achieved that sensation, because you'll feel it, you'll be like, oh, this is what the forearm guy was talking about with the sensations. Okay, this is that sensation he was talking about. I feel it there. So I must have done something right. Once you understand that you've done something right, it's an encouraging, positive feedback loop. You're gonna want to keep going. It's like a little victory, okay? It's gonna feel that way. So the sensations that we're gonna be focusing on seeking and feeling, they're gonna be understood by their names and the rules and the principles. Like I said, in retrospect, you're gonna go back. You're gonna come back after your first training session, and you're going to go, oh, okay, so he was talking about this, this, and this, and you'll look back on it, and then you'll understand fully. And that's so much more satisfying of a way to learn and understand as well, guys. So I really encourage you, if anything, to see your first session in the gym as like something you can't fail at, something you can't lose from, you can't possibly lose, because no matter what, it's going to be a very interesting learning experience. And it wasn't interesting before, and that wasn't your fault. The reason why it wasn't interesting before is because no one gave you the resources to actually learn from your experience. So of course you're not going to learn from it. It's not going to be interesting. Okay, but now that I'm giving you those resources, it will be interesting. That's the difference maker, guys. I'm telling you, that is the difference maker. Okay, so as we seek to organize our knowledge of these sensations in retrospect, you are eventually going to fuse them into your being, and then you're going to intuitively understand these things, and they're going to drive your training over time. So what are these sensations? There's 3 of them, okay? And I have my own names for them, right? Because I hate names, because names are buzzwords. Buzzwords cause people to play word association games, and word association games cause people to misunderstand. So I want you to get rid of any terminology you might have heard in this industry, and don't worry about any of that shit. We're gonna go right down to bare bones basics, okay? These sensations, I call the first one muscle tension, okay? The second one, leverage. The third one, I call it the bonk zone, okay? The bonk zone. So we're gonna go over each one of these sensations in detail, okay, at a later time. But first, we need to establish that the sensations that we are seeking are going to be directly tied into the exercises that we choose to do, okay? So what our exercise choice will directly, okay, impact whether or not we're going to be able to get these sensations that I'm talking about, okay? Because they're related, and I'm going to show you how they're related, okay? And by the way, this is why programs exist, okay? If things weren't related, programs wouldn't exist, okay? So we need a program that is going to select exercises that are going to allow you to feel these sensations enough times for you to remember it, and with enough intensity that you don't mistake it for something else, right? So think about this on a philosophical level. If a sensation is really, really dull and barely there, it's easy to mistake it for something else. There's so many things like that in life, okay? That should make sense, right? If something is barely distinguishable from something else, if there's barely any intensity behind it, it's easily mistakable, right? Things are distinguished by exaggerated features, right? So what we want to do is take these sensations and exaggerate them as much as we can to emphasize the differences between them, so that you don't ever, confuse them for something else. Okay, cool. So the good news here is that most beginner programs you can actually just find online for free are going to put you in a decent position to find these sensations for yourself, okay? So for example, I started out with the Strong Lifts 5x5 program. That's this program online that was I think it's just 5 exercises. You perform 3 of them a day, 3 times a week, and you would literally just do 5 sets of 5 on all of them. And it was just simple compound movements. That just means movements involving many joints at once in the body. So think of like a bench press, that's a compound movement. Think of a squat, think of a deadlift. Those are compound movements, and you just do them for 5x5 3 times a week. And for me, even though that's like, if you know anything about the fitness industry already, like that's a meme program. People make fun of that shit all the time. People dunk on that program constantly. It still got me great newbie gains, okay? Great newbie gains. Because I intuitively understood the meat and potatoes of the purpose of that program. I understood what it was trying to do. I wasn't taking it literally. I wasn't looking at the numbers and expecting some sort of magical result. I went, 5x5. So he wants me to try really hard for 5 reps because I only got 5 of them. And you know what? That makes sense, because if I were to do like 20 reps, I've done 15 reps that are basically nothing, and I just tire myself out. And now these last 5 reps that I actually have to try on, I'm already tired. Why not choose a weight that's heavy enough where I have to try from the start with all my energy? Duh. And so that's what I did. Okay, but I didn't have that fear, I didn't have that apprehension. I have a sports background, I lifted a little bit of weights in the past. In general, I wasn't apprehensive about the gym. So I had already overcome that barrier of curiosity where it's like, okay, fuck it, like we're just like, fuck it, we ball, right? I'm gonna fuck around and find out, right? Okay, you might not have that yet, and so that's why I'm giving you all this now, right? That's why you need extra besides just the programming, okay? This is what I'm saying. So one thing that all good beginner programs have in common is there's going to be a very short list of exercises that are going to be performed though, okay? Because again, we need to minimize the things that you have to think about so you can focus on feeling the correct things, those 3 sensations. And the more clutter we put in the way in your brain between what you're doing and those sensations, the more we're going to confuse you. So you need to have the patience to go into the gym knowing that you're going to do maybe 3 exercises. Okay, they're gonna involve the whole body, but you're gonna do like 3 exercises and then leave. And then in a couple days, you're gonna return and do a very similar set of 3 exercises. And I say you're gonna have patience to do that because these workouts are gonna be short, but you might feel at the end, even though you're tired, even though I knew that I had done something good because these workouts left me trashed, so I intuitively knew. But you might not feel that you've done enough. On an intuitive level, you might be like, 3 exercises, only this many sets, this many reps. Was that really enough? And you might leave the gym with that feeling. You're gonna have the patience to just nip that in the bud and be like, no, yes, I did. I definitely did enough. Okay, and I need to save my motivation. I need to save that energy to come back again 2 days later and do it all again. Okay, so you're only gonna do those 3 exercises, and it's gonna be like a similar set of 3 exercises each day you do it. They're all gonna be similar. It's because you're not used to using your whole body as a coordinated unit to produce a lot of force yet. And so what I mean by this is that your ability to try to produce effort, right now it's too far ahead of your ability to produce relevant effort safely. So what I mean, think about a squat, for example, okay? So I have a bar on my back and I'm doing a squat with good form. So an advanced person, when they try their hardest, like you tell them, get that bar up as hard as you can. What they're gonna do is, with perfect form, with the back straight, they're gonna push straight directly into the ground. And it's gonna look like this. If it's a grinder, they might get stuck right here, and they're pushing through, but it looks perfect the whole way up, okay? Even though it's slow, and even though it looked like it was almost gonna stop on them, right? That's because everyone is capable of producing effort. You're put in that situation where there's all this weight on your back, you're gonna try to stand up, okay? But what I mean by relevance efforts is that all of their efforts in their head went to pushing the bar straight up because they have good technique. You are gonna have effort, but all your effort is gonna be spilling out in these different directions. You're gonna be here at the bottom of a heavy squat, and I'm gonna tell you to push as hard as you can, and you're gonna be doing all this type of shit. That's where your effort's gonna be going. It's not relevant effort. So we have to learn coordination and movements in order to direct our effort, which we already have. It's innate, it is original to you, in a relevant fashion, safely. Make sense? Cool. So, I already went, oh, cool. I covered the squat. I'm ahead of myself. Perfect. Okay, like I said in the first video, guys, do you remember all that time ago? Your body is smarter than you, and that's a really good thing. This is what I'm talking about right here, right? So we have to, like, your body is going to take over and do what it wants to do to stand up with the bar. And you can't just outthink that. You can't just be like, don't do it that way, body. Do it the way I want, and then just expect it to happen. No, we have to train it to understand that it's safe. We have to train it to understand that it's safe to produce force in that way, and that just only comes with practice. So this is where you have to have faith in the exercises selected for your program. Your beginning stage is when you're gonna have to have the most blind faith out of any part of your lifting journey, and I know that that's what gives you anxiety about starting, okay? I might sound like I'm contradicting things I've said in the past about how it's not enough just to do something and wish for results, and indeed I am contradicting myself. I promise though, this is the only exception, and it proves the rule. When you're a beginner, all of the principles of hypertrophy are gonna have a huge margin of error, okay? As long as, like I said, you're following the principles. What stops people from making progress at the beginning isn't usually doing things wrong, okay? That is unless they do it so long that they don't see results for months or injure themselves at the onset. It's simply that they stop doing those things before they can see results. And therefore, since you can only have one first priority, you need to make adherence that first priority. It can't be anything else. It can't be the program, it can't be anything else. It has to be adherence. And so in the absence of knowledge, okay, let me make this clear. In the absence of knowledge, which can only come from experience that you do not yet have, the only support for adherence, your first priority, the only thing you can build that on is faith. Okay, so let's get to it, right? Faith. The thing that I see in common with everybody who makes it to this point that I've made it to is not that we were all free thinkers and really great at what we do. I mean, some people were, some people taught themselves. There's always going to be freaks like that. But most people literally just got lucky enough to put their blind faith in the right guy. I happened to find Louis Simmons first and the West Side Barbell stuff. And a lot of the stuff that they did and a lot of stuff that he said maybe wasn't even scientifically all that true. But like I said, you follow the principles, there's a big margin of error on how well you do with it, and you're still going to make great gains, okay? But the important thing is you have to have faith, you have to believe in it first. A lot of people think it's the other way around. We'll put the cart before the horse, okay? And will not understand the biblical principle, the oldest time principle of faith comes before knowledge. Faith comes before knowledge, meaning you're fucking entitled if you think you deserve to know anything before experiencing something. You're entitled. Knowledge is earned through experience. You don't just get to have it. You don't get to have it. You don't get to say, prove to me that this works before I have faith enough to try it. No, just try it. Okay? You're not you're not a king who deserves to have this stuff presented at your feet. Like, oh, like I need to have it. If you don't have the knowledge, how can you verify that the knowledge is true anyways? No, you need to humble yourself and just be willing to go through experiences just like everybody else. I know it might come across as harsh when I say that. Understand, I'm not attacking you, okay? If this describes you, I'm not saying this to be mean in a way where like you're like a bad person or you're immoral. What I'm saying is this comes from a childish place that is inside all of us, and this is going to give you an opportunity to learn about yourself in this way, and through going through this this experience of just experiencing it first and figuring out the knowledge later. This is going to set you up for a lot more success in life in general too, okay? I promise. So let's go into the actual sensations now, okay? First, we got muscle tension, okay? Muscle tension is the first sensation we're looking for as a beginner, okay? And everyone has experienced it before, all right? Like if you pick something up, you've experienced muscle tension before, okay? You felt the pull on your muscle. That is all I'm talking about. What we are looking to do is organize that muscle tension into categories so that they correlate to what we're doing when we're lifting weights. Okay, so when I say muscle tension, I don't want you to think of it in the colloquial sense where it means like the opposite of relaxed, like tense like this. That's not what I'm talking about. Okay, not artificially tense. What I want you to think about is what happens when you pick something up and your body is just intuitively and very keenly aware of exactly how much force you need from the required muscles to lift it, so you can feel it tense up as much as it needs to lift that thing, okay? So obviously muscle tension will scale then, right, depending on the weight of the object. If you pick up a heavier one, you're going to experience more muscle tension. Less heavy, less muscle tension, right? Easy. But what's easily overlooked then is the fact that the weight of the object should be scaled to the exercise selected as well, because the exercises that are different will use different muscle groups, okay? We're going to go more over that later, so if you're confused by that, just forget it. Don't worry about it. We'll cover it later. I just wanted to put that out there so when I refer back to it, you're like, he did say that. So rather muscle tension, my bad. What you need to know about muscle tension, what you need to understand is that you can't produce hard effort without knowing what hard effort feels like, okay? You can't know what hard effort feels like without knowing what a lot of tension on the muscle feels like, okay? So this is what I was talking about with the squat example, okay? Relevant effort. You don't know what hard relevant effort feels like without knowing which muscles need to experience that tension. If I'm doing a squat and you don't know what your quads feel like when they have a lot of tension on them, you're not going to be able to know that you did the squat correctly because you won't get that feedback where you're like, oh, that's tension on my quads. Okay, I did it, okay? So the best, most comfortable way for a beginner with beginner joints, beginner muscles, and beginner coordination to be introduced to this level of tension is with exercises that involve the whole body, okay, and are difficult at the very beginning of the movement. So what I mean is, let's say that I had to stand up from the bottom of the squat, and it was super easy from the bottom right here, and it only got hard like right here, okay? That's a problem, guys. Any exercise that is like that is going to be a problem. The squat is not like that. The squat is hard right from the start. And so what does that mean? It means that I'm never going to be able to trick myself into not trying. Okay, I'll never be able to cut off part of the range of motion and just either like accelerate through it or like not try as hard. If you guys will understand more this on an intuitive level as you lift more and more and more, but you just realize that the more you can make it hard right off the bat, the less hard it is to really push yourself, because the more it's hard like right at the end, you can just do so many more reps, and in that little part where it's not hard, like your cardiovascular system, your muscles, everything is just going to recover a little bit, and it's going to take you further away from the bonk zone, which I'm going to go into later. It's basically just failure. It's going to take you further away from failure, which is what we actually need, every single time you do a rep. So you're going to have to do limitless reps, and you're going to get so tired, and it causes so much discomfort to the point where it's like, it's not even worth it, okay? And it's just fatiguing as well. It causes so much fatigue, and fatigue is a negative factor. I'm not going to go over that in this video, but fatigue is a negative factor. Okay, so just keep that in mind as we move through the next points, okay? Especially as we cover the specific exercises I want you to go in and do the first time you step into the gym, okay? So all muscle tension is if I have the quad, I can feel the quad needing to flex hard to do the work, okay? It's not like my wrist or something. Okay, it's pretty simple. Number two, we're gonna talk about leverage. Leverage is pretty much the other side of the same coin as muscle tension, okay? The two sensations are opposite of each other in a sense, and you could say that the essence of training is balancing those sensations until they fully meet at the very end of a hard set, okay? What leverage essentially is the sensation of having a strong position to move an object. So this is what I'm saying, it's the opposite of tension, relevant tension. Because if I'm trying to get the best leverage to move an object, it means that I'm trying to get as much muscle tension off of any muscle that I deem not strong enough or not in a strong enough position to do the work. So essentially you're trying to get the work done by any means necessary, okay? Again, this is something that you intuitively will feel in day-to-day life. If you've ever had to push something heavy, like a car, say, or a piece of furniture, anything, what do? You get low to the ground, right? Intuitively, right? No one ever had to tell you to do this, but you're gaining leverage. You're feeling it. You're gaining leverage by getting lower and making the task easier. You are literally making the task easier. The purpose of relevant muscle tension is to make the task harder. So you see how they're opposites, but they coalesce, and they're both important to do at the same time, okay? You have to understand this. Because this doesn't have to be taught, and you don't have to go through that many layers of logic to gain more or less leverage, okay? We can just call it a sensation, right? So the sensation is leverage, right? So, and it's opposite of the muscle tension sensation, right? When we're trying to put weaker muscles under less tension, what are we also doing? We're compensating by giving stronger muscles more tension, okay? And in some cases, we compensate by using the inherent strength and structure of the joints themselves to hold the weight in a position which our muscles have the leverage to move it, right? Okay, so like for example, the getting lower thing, right? So all you're doing is you're just trying to get your joints more stacked up so that the strength of the joints can make up for the lack of strength in muscle power, okay? So you're gonna feel more or less a leverage sensation in different muscles depending on the position of your body and limbs and how far away the center of mass of the weight is from your body, etc. Meaning, for example, right, if my bicep is in this position, it'll have I guess less leverage to do work than if it's in this position, right? So I can pull something to me that's heavier. I can carry a heavier object in this position than I can in this position, because in this position the object is closer to me and my bicep has more leverage, right? And so therefore any muscle that is not able to hold that up, that would be too weak to hold that up, okay? We're not going to use it. We're going to put it on our stronger muscles, okay? The ones that have leverage when we're up here. So what are we trying to do? How do these things coalesce? Well, what we're trying to do with the Good Beginner program is give you exercises where the technique is going to give you more leverage sensations in the relevant muscle groups. Maybe you saw that coming and I took way too long to get around to that. I'm sorry, my bad. But you don't want it in your peripheral muscle groups, the leverage sensations. You want the leverage sensations in your relevant muscle groups. Once you get the leverage sensations in your muscle groups, then we're able to actually apply that relevant effort, okay? We're able to actually get what I was talking about earlier with the muscle tension, okay? We're able to experience that full tension on the muscles that we want, okay? So that's the point of leverage. We want to use leverage to shift the weight to the muscles that we want, and then use enough weight where it causes us to have to try really, really hard. Simple. That leads us to the bonk zone. So this is the holy grail of what we're after in training. It is the result of the collision between those two variables, okay, leverage and muscle tension. And it's simple, but it's an often confused sensation, okay? Simply, it's the sensation of task failure, okay, which is when, you, despite your best efforts, you're not able to complete the task. Gun to your head. In this case, that's performing another proper repetition of an exercise, okay? You should, if you reach the bonk zone, it means that I can hold a gun to your head and you can't do another good rep. The reason why it's confused by some people and we don't jump straight to it when we're beginning out in training and we don't look for it as the first thing is because without understanding what leverage and tension feels like, we're not able to get to the true bonk zone, okay? So what prevents people from getting there to the bonk zone, okay, is you'll change your form in the middle of a set, okay? So the bonk zone is gonna feel different depending on how many reps it takes you to get there, okay? Because it's a change in muscle tension and leverage that happens the more reps you do and the more tired that you get, okay? So I'm gonna get more into that later, okay? But any type of change in muscle tension and leverage is going to take you away from the bonk zone, okay? Because these two things are related. They're never independent of each other. So if you mess with one, you mess with the other, and then you mess with everything. So what I mean by that is if the muscle starts burning, you feel that burn, and then you start to change the form and the way that you lift the weight halfway through a set, you're changing your task, you're shifting leverage away from muscles you're trying to take to the bonk zone, and then with that change in leverage, you experience a correlative change in muscle tension. So no longer is the muscle that you're actually trying to work receiving tension anymore. So then the second thing that prevents people from reaching the bonk zone sensation is using exercises, right, that I was saying, that aren't challenged in the beginning. Choosing the wrong exercises, okay? This is easily avoidable in training, right? This is an easily avoidable error, okay, in exercise selection. Because this presents a problem of energy management, right? When you're a beginner, you have low pain tolerance, poor muscle conditioning, poor endurance, and typically a poor cardiovascular system. Overall, you're low energy, right? You don't have that much oomph to give into the gym right away. So even if your cardio system is in good overall shape, which most of the time it's not, one of the unique benefits of lifting weights that you don't get from other forms of exercises, right, is like capillarization, meaning that when a muscle gets bigger and stronger, you get more veins to it, right? Meaning that your body recognizes the need to supply it with oxygen faster. So if you don't have that capillaries, those adaptations right off the bat, and if you were to try as hard as me and do as much as me and do as hard of a work as me and lift as much as me, you're gonna feel nauseous afterwards because you're gonna have this oxygen debt that your body isn't prepared to replenish very quickly because it doesn't have the capillarization to do so, all right? So you have lower amounts of ability of like coins to spend, points to invest, whatever, energy to give. You have to be more careful with it. So exercises that start off easy and then get hard near the end, they're gonna be particularly stressful to you. Because like I said earlier, it's gonna make your cardio system uncomfortable. You're gonna be stopped by the burn and by the discomforts and by the psychological factors before you actually get to the bonk zone, okay? Because it alters the sensation of the bonk zone. It makes it way more painful. What I'm saying the bonk zone is, most people associate that with like a lot of pain. If you're doing the bonk zone, if you're getting to the bonk zone within 5 to 8 reps, it is painful, it's uncomfortable, but not that bad. Like it's manageable. Like getting to the bonk zone in 20 or 30 reps is torturous. It's unimaginable. Okay, but 5 to 8 reps, you can do that. Okay. So without those adaptations that I was talking about, exercise that start off easy and then get hard near the end of the movement, okay, contraindicated if your goal is to familiarize yourself with the bonk zone in a straightforward way. So what we're looking for is the same sensation that you would get if you tried to lift something one time that's way too heavy for you, right? Think about that. Do you reach cardio failure if you try to pick something up that you just can't, it's too heavy? No, you don't reach cardio failure. It's not because you're huffing and puffing too hard that you can't pick it up. It's just simply too heavy, and you can feel that. It feels too heavy. So what the bonk zone is you need to actually be able to do some of the, I'm trying to find a way to explain this well. I didn't explain it well in my writing. So you technically are at the bonk zone already. If you try to lift something that you can't lift, you're technically already at the bonk zone. But that bonk zone doesn't do anything for muscle growth. Okay, it's not, I don't want you thinking, oh, it's good enough just to try to lift something and fail. You need to have successfully done it a certain amount of times, AKA performed reps. And I'm gonna make it very simple for you, bro. 5 to 8 of them. Just like I said with the forms, just 5 to 8. Just think 5 to 8, 5 to 8, 5 to 8. Don't worry about why yet, just 5 to 8, okay? If you get 5 to 8 of them, you're good, okay? But then that last rep, so either rep 5, rep 6, rep 7, or rep 8, should feel the same exact way as when you try to pick up something for the first time that's too heavy. Does that all make sense? I really hope that all made sense. Please rewatch that, rewind it if it didn't make sense. Like, that right there is the most important thing. I think you can understand what I'm saying there, and if you understand it, like it's just so simple after that, okay? Just lift something that's too heavy for you to lift more than 5 to 8 times, and you'll get to the bonk zone as long as you have good form. So let's go to the actual exercises now, the ones that I know you guys have been waiting for. I'm gonna list them all here. I'm gonna have videos for the technique for every single one of these exercises, guys. Those are gonna be coming up. Not in this video, it's gonna be too damn long, but stay tuned because shortly after I release this video, it's gonna be released right along with it, all of the form videos, okay? So you will be able to apply this immediately, okay? So we got a barbell back squat or a hack squat. We got a stiff leg deadlift. Categorizing those two together, that's your whole lower body stuff, all of it, okay? We're not doing anything else for the lower body. For the chest and back area, okay, the torso, we're going to be doing a bench press or machine chest press or dip. So I want you to choose which one you do, okay? And you can choose up to 2 to rotate between, up to 2 of them, okay? This will allow for accommodations of your gym equipment or personal preference, things like that, okay? And then we are going to be doing a barbell overhead press, okay, or anterior deltoid press, or dumbbell anterior deltoid press. Not going to explain those because I'm going to have the videos. Don't worry about those yet, okay? But understand that I just lied because I said that's going to be for your chest and back. I'm sorry, I meant your chest and your shoulders, okay? So your pushing muscles, okay? This is going to be it for your pushing muscles, okay? Next, let's cover the arms, okay? You're going to be doing your easy bar preacher curls and your easy bar skull crushers or your tricep extensions, okay? So those two, a basic curl variation, a basic extension variation, and you are good for the arms, okay? Then, for the back, we need a vertical pulling variation to work on the lats, the teres major, and the serratus. And then we need a horizontal row to work on all the muscles that do this with the shoulder blade, okay? And then bring the shoulders and open them up, okay? So those would be your rear delts. So that's gonna be like a barbell pen lay row or a chest supported machine row, okay? That's it for the back. And then lastly, okay, you're just going to choose something for the abs. What happened to my music? Let's continue. Not bad. Okay. Last thing for the abs, simple butt off leg lift. Great exercise for the abs, okay? Easy to fuck up though. Pay attention to the video when you see it, okay? So, as I said, different variations depending on your gym availability, but this is just going to take your, these exercises are going to take as many different muscles as possible to the bonk zone as many times as is productive and frequently enough throughout the week. That's what this program is going to be designed to do, okay? So this dictates that all these exercises have to be very stable, easy to perform after a brief learning period, which they are, and difficult at the very start of the exercise, which every single one I've chosen does exactly that, provided you use enough weight. Okay. So, let me see here. Oh, my bad, guys. I'm all turned around. I shouldn't have printed this double-sided. Idiot, man. Okay, this brings us to the second variable we mentioned at the beginning of this video, which is weight selection, right? How much weight do I use? Okay, so basically, you've given me the exercises. Now, how do I organize my performance of the exercises? How much weight do I use? And then how many times do I lift it? How do I know when I'm done? Great question. Okay, I'm clear all that now. So the first thing you need to understand is that sensationally speaking, huge difference between 20 reps to failure and 1 rep to failure, right? We just went over that, okay? So I'm never gonna have you do more than 5 to 8 reps. We just went over that, okay? So that's how many times you're gonna lift it. You do sets of 5 to 8. okay? 5 to 8. No difference, mechanistically speaking, biologically speaking, between set of 5 and a set of 20 reps to failure. They will give you equal growth, but you don't want to do the set of 20. It is too tough. You will hate it. You will puke. Point blank, period. This is what you want to do. Don't at me. Okay. Yeah, I don't need to, I go into way too much detail about that. I'm not going to drill it any more into your head. You got it. So start with a very low amount of weight when you first are performing the movement, especially if it's your very first time in the gym. I don't even need you getting up to the 5 to 8 yet. Just practice the movements, okay? And just do it enough times to, like, with a very light weight to, and this is gonna be up to you, okay? To feel comfortable in what you're doing. Like, literally just to know that you can put an empty bar on your back and do a squat with good form. You have that basic confidence. I don't even need you worrying about the weight yet. But once you are worried about actually putting on weight, you've gotten past that point where, like, okay, you're somewhat confident in your technique, where you're okay with pushing a little bit, okay? So now what do? So start with a very low amount of weight, perform warm-up repetitions with it until you feel good for that movement, and then just keep adding weight in reasonable fashion until it's so heavy that the bonk zone comes within 5 to 8 repetitions. So if you start off with the empty bar and it's light, and then you put on, let's say, 25 pounds and it already feels heavy, you needed to put on a smaller amount of weight, okay? But the point is like wherever you end up, whatever, like let's say I'm doing a set of 5 and 100, it takes 135 pounds for 5 reps to get me to the bonk zone. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to think of jumps that will get me to 135 pounds in an evenly spaced manner and in about 4 to 5 jumps. I don't need to be doing like 8 warm-up sets, right? So I'm gonna go just the bar, and then I'm gonna go maybe 85 pounds, and maybe 105 pounds, and then maybe 115 pounds, and then 100 or 125 pounds, and then 135 pounds. Okay, do you see how I kind of, it doesn't even need to be exact like that. It's just like rough math, right? Okay, but then after you get to that weight and you do your 5 to 8 repetitions and get close to the bonk zone, okay, get close to the bonk zone or all the way there again, we're trying to approach the bonk zone. That's the principle. How close you get, there's a big margin of error for that. But if we're focused on something other than the bonk zone, you're hustling in reverse, okay? So focus on getting to the bonk zone. Keep the weight the same and then try to do it for another set, okay? After that, you do one more set. Okay, so three sets total approaching the bonk zone. That's it. Then you move on. You're gonna have 3 or 4 exercises for that day, and then you're done for the day, okay? So what happens if we fail to reach the bonk zone, right? That's the only question that's left, right? Because after that, so I'm gonna organize the program for you in the description, and I might even put it up on the screen. I'm not gonna go into like the explanations too much because I just want you to go in and do it exactly on the days that I have it, because you're gonna be able to, okay? So you'll have the literal program here. I'm not gonna go into anything more on that. But what I want you to have the knowledge of is like, okay, what happens if you fail to reach the bonk zone, right? Like, you're telling us all of these things are so important. Well, what if, like, for all the reasons you mentioned, we fail to get these sensations? Don't worry about it. Like I'm saying before, the general overall theme is if you're seeking the sensations out purposefully, chances are you're going to be on the right path. But the closer you get to the pure versions of those sensations, the better. So as important as the bonk zone is, it's not a black and white matter. Getting all the way to the bonk zone is ideal. Stopping very far away from the bonk zone is counterproductive. But there's a spectrum of possibilities in between those 2 points, guys. And trust me, you will get somewhere in a way that's productive, okay? I promise you will, okay? So if you don't get all the way to the bonk zone, just don't freak out. It's normal, okay? It is normal, not the end of the world. This everyone when they first start. You're not gonna be different. Everyone fails to reach the bonk zone when they're first trying. No one's good at it right off the bat, okay? So don't worry. Doesn't mean your workout was unproductive. It was very productive. You're still gonna get a lot of gains. Okay, the point is that we want to get ahead of what happens after the newbie gains run out and we actually have to get closer to the bonk zone. We don't want to be caught off guard by that. Okay, we want to be tackling that problem right away. So don't look at these as like just problems that need to be immediately fixed. Look at it as areas to refine in a positive manner. Okay, like I just said, the difference in those 2 mindsets that I just described is that in the former mindset, you're convincing yourselves that anything less than perfection is not productive. That's not true. That is not true. In the latter mindset that I just described, we do understand the importance of chasing perfection, like I said, but at the same time, we're accepting any positive outcome with gratitude, okay? So anything on that spectrum that is good, we're not gonna look down on that with disdain. We're gonna take that and we're gonna keep moving forward with it, use it as motivation to get even better, okay? It's the shoot for the moon and land among the stars attitude as opposed to the all or nothing attitude. Okay? So that being said, the first thing you want to do though is analyze if you are trying to get better at reaching the bonk zone, why didn't you reach the bonk zone? And so we'll go over the common possibilities as follows, okay? Now, if I go over these and you think of something that is like, oh, you know what, like this is a very common thing. Like somebody was commenting on my ADHD video the other day, like there's all these limiting factors, comorbidities that come with ADHD that might keep people from working out. And I didn't think of all of those right off the bat because even though I experienced them, it might not be to the same degree that you experienced them because I was able to overcome them without much thought, okay? So that might be due to a personality trait, that might be due to what I'm experiencing is not as intense, or it might just be, it could be anything, right? I'm not saying, who knows, right? But that doesn't matter, okay? The point is, if you relate to these things that I'm saying, but you come up with a reason where like, I didn't address that, understand, this isn't an exhaustive list. I'm not saying your thing is invalid. This is just the most common possibilities I see. And I encourage you, leave a comment if you think of something else that I can actually cover it. And I might be able to give you like some sort of, if I think about it hard enough, I might be able to give you like some explanation for why that might be happening too. Okay, so I'm completely open-minded. There's probably a ton more possibilities I'm not considering here, but these are the ones that come to my brain. So if they're helpful to you, that's all I care about. Okay, so first, your technique broke down too much, right? So the most common reason for stopping a set before the bonk zone, right? If your technique isn't good, your body doesn't feel stable, it won't feel safe, it won't try as hard. So understand in this situation that simply pushing harder next time isn't gonna solve your problem. So in this case, you have to watch my technique videos over and over again and keep practicing with lighter weights. But do not cease the program to try to fix the problem first. This is where I keep saying perfectionism is gonna be the enemy of the good if you allow it. Keep working up as heavy as you can for 5 to 8 reps on the days that you're supposed to. And if you happen to get stopped by technique instead of the bonk zone, you'll be okay. Over time, your technique will improve into the point where you're hitting the bonk zone every single time. So it'll be like technique becomes less and less of a limiting factor and you get closer and closer and closer to the bonk zone. Even while you aren't hitting that bonk zone, even in that like time period where you aren't perfect, if you push as close as you can to it, you're still gonna fall into that massive margin of error that I was telling you that you get as a beginner, and you're still gonna make gains. There's no way around it. So the second thing is you might lose focus on the leverage and the muscle tension sensations. And this might be because you're getting tired throughout the session, or it might be because you're getting tired in the set because you're using too little weight. And instead of feeling the bonk zone, you're just feeling excessive muscle burn. So in the first situation where it's like you're getting tired in the session, I'd suggest just stopping your session for the day and just coming back when you're recovered. Again, don't try to be perfect. Be patient. See things from a bird's eye view. Does it matter that you were only at the gym for 15 minutes if that's all you were able to prepare to handle that day? You can't hold yourself to arbitrary measurements like hours, days, and weeks. I need to go work out for an hour. Why? Says who? Who the fuck cares? Okay? This is about you, not anyone else, not culture, not nothing. So just use more weight so that you're, sorry, my bad, I'm getting ahead of myself. Don't hold yourself to arbitrary measurements. Your body doesn't know the difference. In the latter scenario, okay, the solution is just use more weight, okay? So where you're getting stopped because the set is making you tired. Just stop and use more weight so that you're stopped by the weight and not the burn. That's the solution. More weight, more weight, more weight, more weight. Don't be fooled by these people who are telling you that like everybody ego lifts all the time and you're lifting heavy when you're a beginner student. No. You need to lift heavy as a beginner, but heavy enough for you and not too heavy for your joints. That's it. Okay, but we're not looking for a burn as a beginner. That's the last thing we're looking for is a burn. What we're looking for is failure. Okay, so you need to use weight that's heavy enough to get you to failure. Okay. Number 3 is you might get scared, either because of anticipating a technique breakdown, right? You might think that your technique is going to break down, so that causes apprehension, which is going to reduce your body's ability to produce force, okay? Or you might be anticipating injury, okay? That's another problem. Or you might be just anticipating just an uncomfortable level of effort, right? You just might be anticipating that like that discomfort that comes with really trying as hard as you can. Okay, so for the first 2 situations, that's very common for like barbell movements, okay, very common. Not as common for machines. The last one is really common with machines, especially if they're, like I said earlier, machines that don't apply the resistance correctly, so it's too hard at the end and not hard at the beginning, okay? So understand that if you're anticipating a technical breakdown or an injury, assuming that you're applying all the safety measures, right, like putting the safety pins on barbell movements, okay, what you need then is a large accumulation of reasonably hard efforts. So not efforts that are too hard for you, okay? You know what that will be. You know what's reasonably hard to you. What you need is just a large accumulation of those reasonably hard efforts, okay, that get close to that anticipation of breakdown, but doesn't quite reach it. Eventually, your body will become confident in its ability to perform the task safely. Okay, so this is very similar to just lightening the weight and focusing on the technique, but it's a little bit more intense. You're using heavier weight. You're still trying to acclimate yourself to failure. It's not just about trying to perfect the technique. It's like you're teaching your body that it's gonna be, like you're teaching the body first the technique, and then you're teaching the body that the technique is safe. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Okay, so remember, we want to fail. We want to fail. You have to teach your body it is safe and okay to fail. Okay, so that's why if it's discomfort that stops you from getting to the bonk zone, then what you need to do is actually do less. Okay, and so what we need to remember is that we want to fail, and then more than that, we want to fail involuntarily. That's where the bonk zone is, right? Like I said, despite your greatest effort, you fail. Not I fail on purpose, okay? So that's the bonk zone. So if producing the level of effort required to get there is too daunting of a prospect, which it might be for you right now, that's okay. You just need to start small, okay? So what I would suggest is every third or fourth workout, okay? And then on the other workouts, just do the thing I was telling you with the technique, okay? And push as hard as you can, but no farther, okay? Again, adherence is first priority. Pick one out of every third or fourth workout, one exercise to do when you get into the gym, just one exercise. And you're gonna perform it for only one set, excluding the warm-ups. Obviously, do some warm-up sets. And then when you get to that working weight, take that one set all the way past that apprehension, straight to the bonk zone, with full knowledge that even if you feel awful afterwards, which that's what you're anticipating, right? You're like, oh, I don't want to try, like, this is gonna make me feel like shit, it's gonna be horrible, my day's gonna be ruined, and then after that, am I gonna want to do it again? Like, no, if you do too much, if you try to do like 3 times in a day, and then try to do it every other day, yeah, you're gonna get tired of that quick. But you're gonna have the knowledge this time that even if you feel terrible afterwards, like, hey, I get to pat myself on the back, I got nothing else to do in the workout to do, I'm done, okay? You're done, enjoy it. Over time, you will build more tolerance to effort, and eventually you're even gonna enjoy the feeling of effort, and your workouts will get longer and more frequent as you can tolerate it, but you don't need it all right off the bat, okay? So, like I said, there will be many more parts in this video that I'm gonna release at the same time as this one, but I'm separating it for organizational purposes. I'm gonna teach you everything you need to know about the exercises selected so you can practice them, get good at them quickly, and then use them to get big. And then if you need to, okay, if anything that I write in the program is confusing, or you need some of those things explained, write it down in the comments, and in these other parts, I'll address those things as well, okay? I've yapped long enough, guys. I'm so sorry for boring. This has gone so long, but all of this information, if you're a beginner, super important. And look, I'm gonna give you a good return on your time investment, okay? Just give me that, I don't know how long I've been yapping for, but just give me that time, and I promise you, it's gonna return all that time to you back and more, because you're gonna save yourself years of fucking around doing nothing in the gym. You're gonna save yourself so much time, okay? Please watch this video as many times as you need to. If I'm not lazy, I'll timestamp shit too, so that you can go, Aaron, timestamp shit, timestamp, okay? Anyways, thanks guys. You guys have a good one. Peace.